back once again with Bud Morris, who is the president and founder of Canada's Best Store Fixtures. Today, we are talking about the RFP process, how retailers can give vendors exactly what they need to squeeze more out of the RFP process. Bud, welcome to this little conversation, this show that we're doing on RFPs. How you doing?
Well, thank you very much. I'm doing good. We'll endeavor to make this a very exciting and fruitful conversation about a very boring process.
Well, we were going to share some stories. We were going to give some hard-hitting one-liners. And more than anything, we're going to actually walk through 5 key areas of focus to make RFPs better. But before we get into RFPs, actually, before we were recording, you brought up this really interesting point that even before a retailer starts to put out RFPs, they should take a step back and do something else first. What is that?
They should do some homework. Yeah, that process, that RFI process, request for information, I think is probably the most important step rather than casting such a wide net and just asking for a price on a drawing of a fixture to, if the program is worthwhile, to take the time to send out the request for information where you can evaluate things like employee counts and manufacturing square footage, the types of machinery that you have, the types of projects that you've worked on. What's your balance sheet look like? What's your, who are your biggest clients? Can we talk to your 3 biggest clients? Checking off all those boxes and making sure that your vendor A is qualified to do the program for you if they are chosen and successful through the RFP process, I think is probably the most important step. Rather than just, like I said, casting a net out and hoping 100 vendors get you the lowest price without you actually knowing who you may sign up with at the end of the day.
And so this is so key because it does take more time. It does take more effort. But I find, and part of what makes the RFP process so broken is that it puts people in different camps. Right. On one side, we have the retailers. On the other side, we have the vendors. And there's this lack of transparency. There's a kind of a lack of trust. We're trying to make everything fit into these tight little boxes so we can somehow compare different people with different things. And so often, retailers are jamming way too much into an RFP, asking the RFP process to somehow quantify and qualify not only the vendor, not only the financials, not only the capabilities, not only the global reach or the materials or any of that stuff, but then also the actual project itself. Right. So taking a step back and focusing on RFI seems like a really good use of time. If you could pre-qualify or shortlist vendors, then when you actually start to have the conversations on the specific program or project itself, it's now much more focused. Right. Do you find that most vendors go through, or most retailers go through this process of splitting this up?
No, absolutely not. No, very few go through this process, and more should. Because, on a large scale or on a small scale, you want to know who you're potentially going to be buying from. You don't want people begging for money in advance of their terms so they can, make their payroll. Usually in that kind of situation, you'll find out that you've awarded the project to a vendor that is not qualified to handle the project or has underbid it and got themselves in trouble. And then everybody's in trouble. So it's not, so we are very proud of the fact that we've built a solid organization that financially we're as healthy as ever. We've got no debt. Our US dollar accounts are up and running so that we can import things as necessary and pay for things. And there's quite honestly, there's a lot of manufacturers that just aren't fortunate enough to be in that situation. And as a retailer, that you got to weed those guys out in the RFI process before you can get to the bidding stage, the RFP stage.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit and get into the RFP because we want to cover off the tactical things that if you're considering an RFP specifically for retail fixtures, you need to watch out for these traps. So number one, of course, is the trap that most business people fall into. It's not knowing what they actually want. And so the biggest challenge that we see in RFPs are people putting out vague, fuzzy details, not knowing what they want, but asking from vendors for the most specific things possible or not even wanting to answer questions. So how do we coach people to go around this?
I mean, we start at the very basics, dimensional information, material specifications are very important. And, go back to what I was saying about consulting, material specifications is important in that you're trying to get everybody that's bidding on the project on a level playing field. However, if your goal is to take cost out of the project, which I would presume is the case, and just about every RFP, nobody wants to pay more. But if the goal is to take money out, then allow for substitutes, allow for suggested alternates to the materials that you've selected, especially when it gets into wood, laminate, veneers. We just had a meeting yesterday. We had some customers come in and their drawings specified solid maple. That's what they specified. That on all of the fixtures, it was specified solid maple. I kind of look at it and go, I don't know why anybody would do that, but it's just a simple language thing. They said solid maple. What they actually meant was they wanted it to look like solid maple. So what does that mean? That means it's a veneer. That's what it is, and that makes a lot more sense. I mean, if you're going to make a drawer face out of solid maple, and the thing's going to twist, it's solid wood, right? So it's going to act like solid wood, which is going to do whatever it wants. The more stable, cost-effective idea is you want it to look like solid maple, so a veneer is the right choice. So the choice of terminology sometimes trips people up. Just be very clear about what you're looking for. In some cases, it's a performance spec. I've seen performance specs work very well in some cases. So this is what the fixture looks like. It's something like this. The colors are this. And we want it to act like this. We want it to hold 75 pounds worth of boxes at, on front loaded shelves at this height and this height and this height. And then go back to the experts, let the experts tell you how. Let me win the project. I'll tell you the best way to manufacture it at the least cost. Let me win it. Let me earn the right to build your product for you. I think, I kind of like performance specs. They don't work all the time. I mean, they're not for everything. But I like performance specs because you really get your team together and you get everybody just thinking, okay, so this thing's got to act like this. Forget about what they've written down. Forget about what they've drawn. This thing's got to act like this. And then you kind of, you just get some design, creativity going, muscled in with some engineering and that's where we have found some great success. I love that process. And then you're earning the opportunity to work with the retailer.
That's a fantastic tip. Now, number 2, of course, the next challenge is having to balance what the project management triangle. But at the end of the day, knowing what is valued makes your ability to respond to the RFP so much simpler. Now,
Sure.
There is this tension or this feeling where it's like if as the retailer we've revealed too much, you're just going to give us exactly what we're asking for, and
right.
and maybe better, and we don't want to tell you. We want you to come back to us with your greatest ideas. But if you're not clear about whether you would rather overinvest in quality or whether you're looking to meet extremely difficult timelines or looking to pull money out of a program, there are just so many different tools that you could leverage, Bud, as Canada's Best Store Fixtures to respond to that, or anyone responding. There's so many different things you could do to kind of move things around to give them what they want if they were just clear on it. So how do you evaluate those 3 kind of key components?
Right. A retailer can be its own worst enemy for things like that. I'll give you another, for instance. We had a restaurant client that, brought in a procurement specialist that was their goal, just to take cost out. So they wanted us to change doors on their cabinetry to an MDF specification in an area that was very wet. An area of the restaurant that was a very wet area. So
now, I'm laughing, but anyone who knows substrates like we do, we're laughing because MDF will absorb water like crazy, right?
It's and it'll expand.
And it'll just
exactly. It'll be a disaster. So they wanted us to change, and we're saying you should use marine grade plywood because that's going to stand the test of time. But the procurement person, they had their own set of boxes to check. They didn't care about stand the test of time. Whereas if I talk to the maintenance guy is going to say, I am going to spend more money over the next 10 years replacing those doors than you're going to save in this RFP. But the procurement guy doesn't care because he's just got a box to check. I got to save 10% on this door. That's it. And I'm done. But the total cost of the project, right? The total, which is where you brought up earlier, that what is the, retailers should consider the total cost of the project. And that includes logistics, project management. Some people would say, I'd rather pay an extra 3% and have one throat to choke than spread it out over 5 guys and have a bunch of anger. So there's value there, and I think that the advice is consider the total cost of the project, of execution of the project. That's what I would say.
And that is also another really great point. It's the expected lifespan of using the fixtures, and the cost of maintenance, the cost of replacing, what you wanted to do. I can recall back when I used to work in facilities, we were redoing a 13-story residential building, and the property manager was pushing for wallpaper, which is so expensive in high traffic areas relative to just drywall.
Sure.
And they were saying, listen, it may be more expensive to put wallpaper up, but it will hide the dings, it'll hide the scuffs, you can wipe it down, you can do all of this stuff. And so over the lifespan of 5 years or 7 years or however long we needed it to last, the more expensive option up front was in fact the cheaper option over the long run.
Right.
That has to be the case when people are just using these fixtures all day, every day in retail environments.
Of course. Absolutely. In shopping cart environments, we constantly, how many times we've had retailers come to us and want to use solid woods on end caps in a shopping cart environment, and the answer is just like, no, you don't do that, because in a month you're going to call me and say all of your stuff is wrecked. Considering that sort of stuff, and that's another big thing too, right? Like in some cases, we deal with designers, and designers are lovely people, but they quite often don't consider the lifespan and durability of the fixtures, and choosing materials for aesthetics over how they're going to act in the environment is a big mistake that's been made so many times. It doesn't happen as much as it did. There was a period of time where we had, actually it was Canadian Tire. They hired a designer to do something in their lighting area. And this designer designed the most beautiful light cloud you'd ever seen. And they wanted to execute this thing like tomorrow. This was the most beautiful. This is going to transform their lighting business. Well, that light cloud was literally a cloud, because there was no way to actually support the thing when you looked at it from an engineering perspective. It was just kind of floating, hovering in the air. And it was going to cost something in the neighborhood of $1 million per store to execute this light cloud. So whatever money you were going to make in this big uptick in lighting, you were clearly going to blow it out of the water. So, and that was, I remember that was so clearly. This is great. This is a beautiful design. We want to go. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is what it's going to take to go. Yeah. We want to stop everything. And it was just a big waste of resource and but fortunately, that doesn't happen that often anymore. I think that the fixture world and the design world have sort of come together.
I'm going to move on to point number 4. So first of all, we were talking about know what you want. Second, we talked about managing quality versus timelines versus budget. We just, of course, talked on durability and the total cost of ownership over the entire lifespan of the project. Number 4, how should people evaluate vendors? We touched a little bit on this when we were talking about the RFI process, but
right.
Should people be doing tours? How should they be evaluating equipment and machinery? Like, when you don't know what you don't know, what should we be looking for?
Yeah, I think as a retailer, if I don't know what I don't know, I'm looking for someone that's already executing on similar projects to what I'm trying to achieve. Like if I'm a Sephora, then I'm looking for a fixture manufacturer that's producing in a similar space. If I'm a Canadian Tire, then I'm looking for a manufacturer that's producing in a similar space, that, someone that does gondola shelving as a majority of the business, and then has some custom elements on, and then, size and scale, right? Not so much on the Canadian side of the border, but certainly on the US side of the border. You can get into some big rollouts, working with Belk's, they have 1,000 stores. So they want to do a rollout of 1,000 fixtures across 1,000 stores. Well, 1,000 fixtures takes up quite a bit of real estate. So does your fixture provider have that kind of real estate? And are they able to manage a project of that size? And show me the proof. Show me that you've done it before, and I can talk to them. And I would encourage retailers to do their homework, talk to other retailers and share war stories. It's not that secretive. It's a big bad world out there. Everyone should all be friends and learn from each other. I don't think anyone's going to withhold that kind of information. So learn from your peers about your new vendors that you're choosing.
Now, point number 5 comes down to strategy. With a global market, with the ability to produce locally and use local species or local materials versus nationwide versus global, the ability to do cross-border exchange, having to deal with different tariffs. Right. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can actually strategically set up a program that will affect pricing huge.
Sure.
So I know that you guys do a lot of this kind of strategy to make sure that you're driving the most value possible, whether it's producing locally or overseas, whether it's cross-border stuff, exchange, all of those things.
Right.
How do you help communicate that to the retailer, and how do they assess on your side whether you're capable of doing some of these more advanced strategies that will help in the end save potentially millions?
Right. So I think that comes back to that consulting, that trust and that consulting process up front. I'm very proud to say that the vast majority of our trusted clients over many years will come to us with that sort of request and talk to us about, maybe a retailer might say, okay, so we got a rollout coming up. It's the type of project that we could see some bigger gains from importing from overseas, but it might be a species of wood that's just not available, or a laminate that's not available overseas. So that's where we would be able to quickly upfront have a very frank sort of conversation about specifications and what we're trying to achieve, and make sure timelines allow for overseas. I don't know if our audience knows this or not, but China is a big, fantastic country, but they don't have a lot of straight growing trees. They have a lot of crooked trees. So things like pine in China is just not very available. We actually, so for us, we're going to source the material here, send it to China for production, and then bring it back here. Really doesn't make a lot of logistical sense. So we would probably steer our clients to more of a veneer or a laminate that acts like, looks like, feels like the pine that they are looking for, and can be sourced where they need it to achieve their financial goals. So here's another example. So back when I got into this business, it was a very mainstream thing for U.S. retailers, especially U.S. retailers in high growth mode, to come to Canada looking for fixture manufacturers to help with their programs. Number one, because they could take advantage of exchange rate. Number two, because we're a wealth of raw material here in Canada. And number three, we speak the language, we're in the same time zone, all of that stuff. So it made it very easy for us to interact with each other. I see now that coming full circle. I see more U.S. retailers coming to Canada for all of those same reasons, to help execute their programs. From a business perspective, they help me. I need those dollars to import from overseas. I need those dollars to import from the US. From a business perspective, it helps me balance things out. I'm not exchanging dollars as much as I would otherwise have to.
So to finish off this list, listen, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you for a few fun war stories. So we love retailers. We love our customers. We're not aiming to make fun of anyone. But at the same time, there's some pretty silly requests that come in. What, like let's give a list of the never, ever do this so that way we can help save people from embarrassing themselves. What's a few times where people came to you with some head scratchers?
Certainly, some of those references that I gave you, sourcing pine overseas, that was a real one. It happens a lot in the gondola shelving business. It's a commodity. And so these, big retailers go out for RFP every 2 years. And every 2 years, it's a new buying group that comes in. They got a goal to take 3% out of their purchase. Costs of materials, costs of labor are all going up. You have a commodity product that hasn't changed. Somehow, every couple of years, some new person comes in and says, I'm going to take 2% out. Even though the cost of everything has gone up, I'm going to take 2% out of this. If they get the 2%, it comes from somewhere. Something is going to be lacking somewhere. And eventually the retailer is going to figure out where that was, and it's usually not a place where they wanted it to be removed. And then, they change out the procurement group again, and the cycle starts over. And that's what. So that's sort of the nasty end of large RFP. To break down the whole conversation, it comes down to effective consultation upfront is the right way to go. It's going to make you more successful. As a retailer, it's going to make you more successful. So come to the experts. Come to the people that can help you with specifications, pick materials, and build the best program for you to execute your retail requirements and make you the shining star of your organization through a very effective RFP process. Come and see your friends at Canada's Best Store Fixtures. We'll help.